Hey there folks. So in this video what we're going to be looking at is how we can maybe use some of these different types of meshes and different things that we've got in order to make a range of pickups. And through that what I want to go through is the concept of inheritance. So what I don't want to do is have to go through and make this exact pickup multiple times. I don't want to have to make a apple pickup, a banana pickup, a bunch of banana pickups, and if we look at those meshes again, I don't want to have to make ammo pickups, coin pickups, currency and vulnerability pickups. If I'm going to have to make the exact same functions over and over again, the same triggers, the same outcomes, the same effects. So this is where we look at something called inheritance. And if we go and have a look in here, what you'll see is I've got all these actors that we're going to make in a moment. I've got this base pickup, this blueprint class, and you can see here parent class is in that list. And the parent class this comes from is actor. But if I was to go over the base health pickup, I've got, well, what is the parent class of this? Well, it's the base pickup, the one that I just overlapped. This one here, the apple, well, that actually, its parent class is of the type base health. So why would I do that? Well, with our inheritance, there's going to be some key things that we can actually inherit and receive when we use inheritance through the whole chain of child blueprints and classes that we're going to have. So the first one is components. So I can set up components and elements that these things like the static mesh here. I can define that this is going to have a static mesh, and then they can all have a static mesh, but they can change that value, change that variable, make it reusable so that every single pickup can look different. I can set values and variables. So I can say this one has got a variable, and then every single one of these also has access to that variable. I can also set functions. So I could say, well, what happens when I pick this up? When I pick this up, does it do something? When I pick up a child of it, does it do something different? And obviously a health pickup is going to heal me, whereas a coin or currency pickup is going to give me some coins and currency. An ammo pickup is going to give me ammo into my gun. So they're all going to inherit, they're all going to come from the exact same parent, but I can change what that thing does. I can override it. I can even do what the parent does and extra. I can do new steps before and after, but it's going to allow me to approach my functionality in such a way that I build one simple actor, one simple base pickup, and then I have lots and lots of variations and versions of that. And if I need to fix something, if I need to change something, if I need to add something, if I add it into the base pickup, every single one of the child elements is going to have access to that as well. So another way of looking at this is maybe the characters. Do you want to have lots and lots of different variations of your character? You don't have to go through and in your character, I'm going to go in my character here. I don't want to have to go through and make the health functionality every single time. I don't want to have to go through and make all of these movement and jump inputs for every single one of my characters. Because if I do, I'm just doing the same thing. I don't want to have to, anytime you find yourself taking all this functionality and copying and pasting it into a new blueprint, then that's kind of an indication that maybe these could inherit from the same thing. Could they both have the same parent maybe? So that both of them could have the functionality set in one place, and if I change it in that one place, it changes for both of them. Okay, so inheritance is a very useful thing. It's a part of object-oriented programming, and if we can understand that, it's going to allow us to save a lot of work and also to be a lot more precise and kind of considered in how we build our systems. We build base systems, and then we make things that are reusable and editable and more modular in how we build them. Okay, so to get us started, what we're going to do is we're just going to go into our blueprints folder. I've already got this dynamic actors folder that I've been using for things that I might put into the world, and I can either make another folder in here for pickups, or I can put a folder inside of this one here. So I'm going to just make a new folder, and I'm going to call it pickups. And I'm just going to go in here and create myself a new blueprint class. Now this is going to be an actor that I can place or spawn in the world. This is important because think about pickups. We might place them into the level ourselves. As level designers, we might choose where the ammo pickups or the weapons and the health pickups are going to be. Or it could be that they are spawned in when an enemy dies, maybe like loot and objects and things get dropped by them. So we're going to go with actor, and I'm just going to go with BP underscore base pickup. And we're just going to go through a bunch of different things now of how inheritance can be used for this. So remember, the idea of inheritance is that we can share functions, the actual events, the functionality that exists. We can share the different components that they have. We can also share things like variables. So let's go in here and think, well, this is our base pickup. What does every pickup in our game need to actually have? So we're going to go into here, and I'm just going to go to the components section first. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think, actually, how does my character interact with this pickup. Maybe I've got different types of pickups in my game. Maybe I've got a interactable pickup that I have to actually look at and press a button to interact with, or maybe I've got some kind of collision. Well, if I've got a collision and they all interact with a collision, I could put the collision like this into this base pickup here, and that would mean that every single one of my pickups is going to have this collision available to them. I'm also going to go in here and I'm going to add a static mesh, and I'm going to add this in, and you can see right now no static mesh is assigned to this. So let's just go and find ourselves some kind of default thing that we can put in here. And again, I'm using the prototype pack, so I'm just going to throw myself a cube in here, maybe one that's got a little bit more kind of, you know, angled chamfered edges to it. Now that obviously is a very, very big cube, so maybe we want to look at reducing that down in its size. The only thing that I'll warn you about with this is that if I do go in here and start going, okay, well, maybe this cube is a little bit too big, let's go in here and change it down. So maybe like I want to go like a 0.2 on its scale for the pickup. That would mean that every single child of this, every single version of this pickup, if I go and change its static mesh, it's also going to have a scale value of 0.2. So it sometimes can be useful to think, what actually do I need to set as the default values, and then work from there. So I'm going to leave it as this for now, but we'll see how this is actually going to have an impact on different static meshes I place in soon. Okay, so we've got some components. We've got a collision sphere and we've got the visual static mesh. I'm also going to add some variables. So here I'm going to add a variable, and let's just go with amount to add. This is whatever this is going to add to me. And this is where I would look at my pickups and I would look at them, or any of my actors, and I would say, what are the generic variables, the values that they need to communicate? So in this case, pickups, they're going to add something to me. They're going to give me something, and there's an amount of it that it's going to give. So it might be that it's going to give me an amount of ammunition. It might be that it's going to give me an amount of health. It might be that it's going to give me one key. The amount to add could literally just be 1. And in fact, what I always recommend is think, what is the default amount to add that I should have? Well, adding 0, this is where you get testing. You're like, oh, why doesn't this work? Well, if the amount to add is set to 0 by default, we might forget to change it. And we might always forget, you know, that actually it's working, but it's just not actually adding anything. So I'm going to set the amount to add to 1. Next thing I'm going to do in here is I'm going to go into the event graph, and for now I'm just going to get rid of all these kind of ghost nodes that we have, and I'm just going to create myself a new custom event, and I'm going to call this one the pickup effect. Okay, and you don't have to do this, but sometimes I find it quite useful to know who is picking up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a new input to this event. I'm going to call it the interacting actor, and I'm going to set it to be of the type actor. Some tutorials you follow might show you this as make it a reference of your base character, make it a reference of the actual character, your third person or your first person character you're playing as. But by making it actor, it means we can actually have anything. Clive for this, it means we can have anything. You know, we could have a car, like in Mario Kart, you could drive over a pickup and you could pick it up. It means that it could be any of the characters and actors that we have in our game. So maybe it's the enemies, maybe it's our player character. We're going to be able to filter off of this to choose what it actually is. Okay, so that's got an event, and maybe we'll have another custom event, and we'll call this remove pickup. You know, so whatever we want to do that actually destroys this. Okay, so that's going to be the starting point for us right now. I've set up my base pickup. I've got something I can collide with, so I can actually interact with this. I've got some kind of visualization that allows me to see what this pickup is. I've got some events in here for how I pick this up and what actually happens when I pick it up. And I've got an event here for removing it from the world, because once I've picked it up, I probably want to get rid of it. I don't want to be able to keep on just picking it up over and over and over again. And I've also got a value over here. I've got a variable, the amount to add. Okay, so that's going to be our starting base pickup. We've set up our base class that we can inherit from. So in a moment, what we're going to do is we're going to look at making variations of this and thinking, how can we use inheritance to leverage all of these different elements that we've just set up? Okay, so I'm in my level now, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this base pickup into the world just so I can see what it looks like. And there we go. I'm going to place this on this board that I've got here, so you can see I can see it down here on the floor, and obviously I'll be able to walk over and I'm going to set up some functionality to pick this up. Now what you'll notice is my pickup here, I can actually walk through this. Your one might be stopping you from actually walking. So what I've done here is in this base pickup, I've gone through and I thought, what is it that's actually going to collide and overlap with my character? Well, I've clicked on the sphere collision. I've gone down here and I've made sure that the sphere is obviously going to overlap something. You can set up overlap all dynamic, or you could set up something a bit more custom if you want to overlap only pawns and only overlap the character. The static mesh, on the other hand, what I've done is I've just gone through and I've changed it from block all dynamic to no collision, because what I definitely don't want to do is be walking up on top of ammo packs and health pickups and things like that. So now the static mesh is literally just there to be a visualization. So you can see the collision presets, no collision on there. So how do we actually collide with this thing? Well, I'm going to go to the sphere collision, I'm going to right click it and I'm going to add an event, and it's going to be a begin overlap event. So when something starts overlapping it, it's going to trigger this functionality to run. Well, we could look here and say, what is it that's going to actually overlap? I could cast to, and I could cast to the base character, and that would be functional. As long as our character is loaded into memory, then this isn't too much of a problem because the character's already there, and we're just converting a generic actor into a base character. And we'll see this a lot in tutorials, but what if it's not actually a base character that I'm playing as? What if it's not a base character, or all of my different enemies, NPCs and characters, what if they don't all inherit from the exact same character here? Well, at that point, I might need to have a bit more control over my filter. So could I go, does this equal a specific actor? So I could say, is it equal to, I don't know, get player, and we've got get player pawn, get player character. Could I look and say, is this equal to the one that I'm currently in possession of? I could do that. I have a preference where I like to go actor has tag, and I like to use tags to define whether something is my player, whether something's currently in control. It's personal preference, but I usually go with a tag called player, and I will put this in and say, okay, well, when something overlaps me, let's just check whether that thing that has overlapped me has this tag. So how do I actually set that tag? Well, let's just go into our character, find my character, my base character here. I'm going to go to the root of the base characters component here, and I'm just going to search for tag. And you'll see I already have this set up in here from other demos. So here, tag, I've added an array element. So use this little plus add element, and I've got an option here called player. And you've just got to make sure that you spell it exactly the same. So there you can see it says player. And I'm just going to put in a print string here that just says hello. Okay, so let's just test this out now. And what this should mean is that if I start and walk into that collision, it says hello. Yeah, if it was something else that wasn't my actor with the tag player, then that wouldn't work. Now, how do we take this a little bit further? Well, let's go back into our pickup and let's use this pickup effect that we've already actually started using. And rather than doing my print string here, let's put that pickup effect to do the print string, and let's just call the pickup effect from in here. And I'll show you in a moment of why we're doing that, but that means that now, when I overlap it, the overlap event runs, and it will say hello, because it will call the pickup effect, and it will run that print string saying hello. Okay, so that's at least overlapping, that's triggering the pickup to actually work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we can actually make different types of pickups, different variations of this that we can obviously use for things like giving ourselves ammo, health, lives, and so on. Okay, so I'm now in the content browser and I'm looking at my BP base pickup class. Now I've got options for how I make variations of this. What I definitely don't want to do is I don't want to right click on this and I don't want to duplicate. Because if I duplicate, I'm making an exact copy of it at this point of what it is right now, which is fine. But if I then go and add any kind of functionality into this base pickup, all of the copies won't have that either. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that any changes I make in this base pickup then get shared out to all of the child blueprints of this, all the ones that inherit from this. So any new functions, any new visuals, any new variables, they'll all get access to that. Now you've got two options. You've got the long-winded way of making a child, and what you can do with that is you can right click, go blueprint class, and you can search in your all classes option here for the actual class that you want to inherit from. So you can see I can go to base pickup and I could use that. That's a bit more long-winded. The easy way is just to find the base that you want to inherit from, right-click it, and at the top is Create Child Blueprint Class. And that's pretty much the way I'll always do this. So I'll go to this, and I'm going to give it a name, and we'll go with BP underscore, and let's go with base health pickup. In fact, I might go with BP underscore pickup, and then we'll go with base health. Why am I saying base health? Well, in the future, I might make variations of this that allow me to have more or less health. I might have health packs that add like 5 or 10, and then I might have a health pack that just fills up my health completely. I might have health options that give me more health and expand out my max health. So this is just going to be the base health pickup, and then I might even inherit and change from this one. Okay, so now that's created, what we're going to do is we're going to double click this, and we're going to have a look around at what actually exists inside of a child blueprint. Well, the first thing that we're going to notice is that the child blueprint looks exactly the same as the parent. It has the exact same components. We can see sphere and we can see static mesh, but guess what? I can't delete that static mesh. I can't remove a component that has been inherited. So this is where it's useful to plan, because do you need every single one of them to have a sphere collision? Do you need every single one of them to have a static mesh visualization? If you don't, then know that if you set it in the parent, all children will also have access to it. The thing we can do though is I know that I needed in my pickup a static mesh visualization of what that pickup is. So here in the static mesh, if I go over to the static mesh property, I can go and have a look and change this to something else. So here, this one, the base health pickup, is instead going to use an apple. The apple's very, very small, and that's because it's also inheriting, we're going to have a look at this, it's inheriting the scale of that static mesh. So here, I might actually want to go into here and say, let's make this a little bit bigger. So now, not only is it changing the static mesh, but it's also changing the scale. It's still a static mesh. It's still there as a component, but I've changed the variables and changed the options assigned to that. Okay, so let's take that and let's just plug that into the world just so we can see what that looks like. There we go. So now we have got a cube and we have also got a little apple. The cube is just our default and the apple is going to be our health pickup. And what do we actually want to do with this pickup health stuff? Well, if I go into here, into my base pickup and start looking at this pickup effect, maybe I don't want to just print out hello. Maybe I want to get a reference to self and I want to drag that reference to self onto inString. And you see it says convert it. What it's going to do is it's basically going to give me a display name node. And that's going to say, get the name of what this thing is and print that out. So let's go in and overlap these. Let's see how this works. If I go and overlap the base pickup, there we go. And if I overlap the health pickup, base health. Yeah, so every single time I overlap one of those, it gets what their name is and prints it out. So that's brilliant because it means that each one of them knows that they are a separate, different thing. But how do we start going with them doing different things? Well, this is where it becomes useful to think about these functions and having the ability to override and change what these functions do. And that's what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at how can I do something different for a pickup effect of health versus a pickup effect of ammo, or something different that we pick up in our game. Okay, so I'm in my pickup base health now. And if I go into the event graph, what you're going to see is that it has the usual kind of ghost nodes of event begin, play, and event tick and stuff. But I can't see any of these nodes that exist inside of the base pickup. I can't see the overlap events. I can't see the pickup effect. Well, let's just get rid of those nodes for a moment and let's think about how I want to do this, because the functionality is there. Obviously, when I overlap the base health pickup, it prints out, gets its name and prints that out. Why can't I see any of that here? Well, that's because if you don't define any functionality, if you don't change the functionality in the child, then the child will just do what the parent does. So in this case, because I haven't told it to do pickup effect and change pickup effect, it just does what the parent pickup effect does. So how do I go about actually changing this around? Well, what I can do is I could right click and I could search for it. You can see I could call the function, so I could tell it to run, but I can also have an event that calls pickup effect here. So let's just do print string here, and then let's just say something like, I don't know, yummy apples. Okay, and let's go and overlap this in the world. So we go over to here. There's my base pickup, which I overlap, and it says base pickup. And every time I walk in, it says base pickup. Whereas this one, now you can see it says yummy apples. It doesn't tell me the base health pickup name anymore. And that's because what I'm doing is I'm basically saying, I know that this event exists and this event has been defined in the parent, but I want to change it. I want to do something different. And this is how we're going to allow ourselves in our child blueprints to be able to do something different to what the base parent does. But what about if I still want to do what the base parent does? What about if I still, in this instance, want to print out the name? Yeah, maybe it's stuff like how reloading and ammo checks happen in a gun. You still want to check whether you're allowed to do all that, whether you check the ammo and see whether you can fire the gun before you fire the gun and do something different in a shotgun to a rifle to a machine gun. So what I might want to do is I might want to go to this event pickup effect, the base event here, right click it and add a call to parent function. You'll see this orangey brown node here. And what this will do is it's basically a way for us to say, at some point along this chain here, I want you to do what the parent does. If we're stuck on it and we're looking, we're going, well, what is the parent? How do I get access to the parent? Just look up at the top right here. You've got parent class and it tells me, and you can use this little pen icon here to load up the parent class. So click on that, it'll take me to it. But it'll basically say, do what this thing does inside of there. Now I can choose to put this here or even here. So I can choose to do new functionality before I do the parent, or I can do the parent functionality and then do new stuff along the way. And you can even set up some kind of complicated functionality here where you can have things going on and checking before, change the functions that allow you to check whether you should be able to do the pickup effect, do the pickup effect, and then do something new afterwards. So I'm just going to plug this in here and let's go and overlap that again. So now, base pickup, we go and overlap it and it tells us base pickup. We go and overlap the apple and you can see there it says pick up base health and then yummy apples. Remember, print strings happen in order and they move the last one down. So the most recent print string is the one that's at the top of the list. So it says yummy apples. So what this is doing is it's running the parent function, which is this, and then it's doing new stuff on top. Now this is why I've shown you here to add this pickup effect custom event, because really, why didn't I just do that down here? Why didn't I put the print string at the start inside of this branch? Well, let's just go back to here and let's think about the actual overlap events we've got. I want to overlap the actual overlap of the sphere, but if I was to go and search for that here, there's actually no way for me to just add that in other than the normal default way of adding it in. So going to the sphere and going to add event, begin overlap. And you can see here, it adds it in. But if I right click this, there's no way for me to add a call to a parent function for that collision. So this is where it's quite useful to just trigger the overlap event in the parent and then have an event that happens that you can customize and change in every single child to be different. Because otherwise what you're going to do is every single child, you're just going to end up doing all the exact same functionality and doing it again, like the checks of whether it's the player overlapping and things. So here, I check whether it's the player, I do my filtering, and if it's how I want it to run, I run the pickup effect there. Okay, there's another way of knowing what you can actually override and what you can change, and that's if you go over to the left-hand side and look at functions, when you hover over the functions option, you'll see there's a drop-down box here called override. And if I click on this, you'll get a list of all of the functions, the events, the things that are available to you in this actor. Now, obviously, I've gone from actor to base pickup to my base health pickup. So I don't really have a very deep inheritance chain. But let's say you had character or maybe pawn. Well, every single pawn is a type of actor. So I might have actor functionalities, then I might have pawn functionalities. Then from that, I might have character functionalities that exist in maybe the character movement components and things like that. Then I might have my own base character. And then I might even have new child versions of that for enemies and NPCs and the player character. So it's useful to look here and say, where does that actual function exist? And if I was to do the call to parent function, what am I actually contacting? Because it might not necessarily be this thing here, the parent class, the direct parent. It might be that I'm calling functionality that exists higher up in that inheritance chain. So again, think about that actor to pawn to character to base character to NPC. Maybe my NPC is overriding functionality that exists all the way back in actor or in pawn. So you can see here, I've got this remove pickup. And if I didn't already have this node in here, so let's just remove that event pickup effect just for a moment. You can see that if it doesn't already exist, I might have to just compile it. And there you can see, I've got access to those functionalities. I can click on it and that will allow me to make new versions of those events. Okay, so very useful to do. Have a consideration for your overlaps, set up your overlap functionalities, get the filtering done, but use your custom events to actually have different types of functionality that you can do. So think about it in a very general sense, like pickups, they have a pickup effect. I'm not defining at this point what the pickup effect is. I'm not saying that it adds health or it adds coins, it adds ammo. I'm just going to say it has a pickup effect. It does its pickup effect. And then it gets called, and in every single child, now I can start choosing whether it should do the parent or whether it should do its own thing. Now, let's look at how we can extend this just a little bit further then, just to finish our understanding of inheritance. So we've got the event, the function, the thing that's being overridden and changed. We can choose to do the parent function if we want, and then we do an action that is different in this specific one. So here, pickup base health, we do what the base pickup does, and then we do our own thing. Well, let's start making this just a little bit different. What about if every single one of these actually prints out the amount to add? It lets us know the specific number. Well, I can right click and I can search for amount to add. So you can see there's get amount to add and set amount to add. That's useful if you obviously have a great understanding of your inheritance chain and the inheritance structure, and you know what variables exist, so you know what to look for. Obviously, you could go back and you could look through the whole chain here. You could go, okay, I'll click on this, I'll look at its variables, then I might look at another parent and go through their variables. But that's a bit of a pain to have to go through and find exactly what variables exist and where in the inheritance chain they exist. So what we can do is we can come over here to our variables section. Well, really, we'd hope that we could see amount to add. It's a variable I have access to, but why can't I see it in this list? Well, that's because by default, this blueprint will only show you variables that exist for this blueprint. They don't exist necessarily in the parent structure, in the parent chain. So to show that, where it says my blueprint, just look to the right and you've got this little cog symbol, the setting symbol. And if you click on that, the top option here is to show inherited variables. So that will show me all of the variables that exist all the way up. And that's going to give you a lot more than you're going to need, but it is going to at least give me amount to add. And this is where it can be useful to maybe start categorizing these. So rather than just going to amount to add, I could just say here in the category section, let's call this base pickup and compile it. Now you can see it exists in a base pickup section. And now over here, I have a base pickup section. So I can know where that's being inherited from. When I'm looking at this chain, I can obviously see that's where I want to get that from. And I can click and I can drag that in. Now, same as the components, I can't delete, I can't remove this variable, but I can now start changing it. So here, amount to add, we add in 1. So let's just actually print this out. Rather than saying yummy apples, let's go into here and we'll say, okay, well, I overlap my base pickup. And it says base pickup. I overlap here, it says base health pickup, and it prints out 1. Okay, brilliant. So options that I have now. Well, obviously what I could start doing is I could say, maybe I make duplications of this. Maybe I make variations and versions, but do I want to have lots and lots of different ones that all have the exact same functionality that I have to copy and repeat? And what if I make a decision to change how a health pickup works? Well, this is my base health pickup. Every single health pickup is going to inherit from this. So this is going to have functionality to add health to my player. So let's go and have a look at setting that up. Rather than doing this amount to add, and rather than stringing this number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply damage. And we say apply damage. Why would I apply damage? That seems counterintuitive, to hurt the player when I'm trying to heal them. But remember, there's 2 really important values that are really useful for the apply damage. The first one is the actor we're going to apply damage to, and the base damage, the amount that we're going to apply to them. But if this is a negative number, depending on how you set up your character's health system, let's just go and have a look in here in our base character's health. I can zoom in. If I take this number and take my health and minus that damage value, well, a minus number minus another one. So if I subtract that negative number, I'm actually going to add. So here what it could be useful to do is it could be useful to take this, and rather than just putting it into the base damage and causing damage to my player, I could actually multiply this. So let's just multiply it by -1, because anything multiplied by -1 is just going to turn it into a negative number, and I could plug that in. Now, as I've just said, there are two really important elements that we need in terms of adding this in. And I've gone with an integer here because I thought, let's just add in whole numbers of health, and let's add on whole numbers of keys and things like that. It doesn't have to be an integer. You could change this to a float and then you won't have to do the conversion. Just think, what type of value are you adding in? Do you want to work with float values and just add one key or add 2 or 3 keys? Just make sure that it's not a case of you accidentally add 2.2 of a key to a player. So the other thing I need is this damaged actor. And where am I going to get that from? Well, let's just take ourselves a couple of steps back all the way to our base pickup. Here, the thing that we overlap is coming through on the other actor. So I'm going to actually take that other actor, and on my pickup effect, I added the interacting actor. So the thing that was coming in and interacting with this, I added that as an actor plugin as an input onto my node. So let's take that and feed it through. So we're basically saying here, let's check the thing that's overlapping us. Is it something that has the tag player? Is it something that I'm referring to and recognizing as a player? If it is, well, let's run the pickup effect and also tell the pickup effect that this is the actor that interacted with us, which means that that'll come through and it'll come through into here. Here, I'm not going to use anything for it. I could plug this in and test this out, and you can see that it tells us it's our base character. But obviously, if I override this, if I change this and go into here, now that exists coming out of here. I could plug this into the parent. So if I needed to go from here and use it, obviously I want to make sure that if this is further along in this chain of functions and nodes here, that I'm still telling it the one that comes through. But now I could use that as my damaged actor. So I could say, I've overlapped with the player. Let's tell the player to take some health. So let's test that out. Let's see how that works. And I have got a damage causing actor over here. So now you can see my health is at 75. If I come over here and overlap it, base health pickup, 76, 77, 78. Brilliant. So I've created a health pickup that's going to obviously override and change and give me all these different options. Now, what about if I want different types of pickups? What about if I want to have a health pickup that gives me lots of health and values? Well, we could make this amount to add a public variable. So you can see here, if I make it public, and I could go in here and I could obviously now see, if I go into, let's just make sure that's visible. Yep, so amount to add in there, and I should be able to see, if I just go and search for amount to add, I should be able to see it, and I can change it. Yeah, I could change this to 10. Let's just test this out with 10. Take 25 damage, come over here, and 10. There you go. So I could do that, but then we have no consistency, and I don't want my designers to have to go through when they're building the level, to have to go through and constantly be like, oh, I'll go through and I'll find the amount to add as I place this pickup in and define how much that should give. What I really want to have is the ability for us to just say, this is an apple, and an apple is going to give me 10 health points, whereas maybe a banana might give me 50 health pickups or health points. So rather than me overriding it on every single instance, and we can do that, we can leave it at this so we can override. To get consistency, we might want to have different variations. So this is where I've made this a base health pickup. So what I might have is a new child of this, and this one's going to be pickup health apple. And I know this one already is an apple. I mean, this could be a different visualization, but no, this one is my apple. I could define a name in here that says this is an apple, so it can go into an inventory, but I can go in there and I can just find over in this side here, amount to add, and let's just change this to something like 10 or 15. Yeah, great. Compile that, and literally the only thing that I'm doing here and changing here is just this amount to add. I might change the static mesh if it wasn't already an apple, but I'm just defining this as an apple pickup. So let's put that in there. Well, what about if I want a different one? I could go back to this base health pickup. I could create a new child, or I could even take the one that I've just created and I could duplicate that one because it's just inheriting all the functionality and I'm only changing visuals. So let's make this one a banana. Again, it's going to copy, it's going to look like that, and it's going to say open full blueprint editor because there's no functionality in here. We're not actually changing anything. I'm just going to open the full blueprint editor just for a moment so I can get the static mesh, and I'm going to change this one to a banana. And this one, okay, well, the banana, let's go with amount to add. And well, it's set as 10 because the apple did 10, but let's go with 20, yeah? And again, feels great. I can take this, I can plug this into my world, and now I've got this banana pickup, which is going to give me 20 health. And I can even go as far as saying, well, that's one, let's take that and let's duplicate it again, and let's go with banana bunch. And I'm only using these because these are things that exist in the prototype pack, so it feels logical to use them as the demo. But now you can see there's my bunch of bananas, and this one, when we go amount to add, we can go with maybe a value like 50. Okay, so I'm going to plug this one in, drag it into the world, and now I have got a base pickup. I've got a health pickup that inherits from that applies damage but actually heals us. So you can see when I pick it up, it says 100. And then I've got this one here. So let's just take some damage just for a moment so we can see them healing the damage. There's 50. And if I come over here, I think I've just healed up back to 65. So this one, 75. This one, 95 because I've healed up on that one. Let's just take a bit more damage. So there we're down to 45. If I go and hit the bunch of bananas, and now I'm up to 95. So each of these here is completely different. Okay, so we're just going to add a little bit more polish to this one now. And the first thing that I'm going to personally do, and you don't have to do this, but I can see how every single one of these pickups has this big kind of icon that blocks my view of it, which is a bit of a pain when I'm trying to put these into the world, because obviously it gets a much smaller icon as I get close to it. But as I'm all the way over here, I'm going to find that these things are actually blocking my view. And if I've got loads of health pickups and loads of ammo pickups and putting in my scene, I don't want to get confused by trying to work out and having to zoom in to see which one they are. Well, that's easily fixed. Let's go into our base pickup. And the reason why we have that is because every single actor starts with this default scene route, which gives it, the ability to have a transform, have a location, rotation and scale, but it also has that visualization. What you can do is you can go and add a new component and add a scene component. And you'll see the scene component, they're both scene components, the exact same thing. But if I take this new scene component, maybe I just rename it to route, and I drag it onto the default scene route, what it should do is it's either going to ask me if I want to attach or make a new route, or potentially it's just going to automatically make the new route for me. So when I let go, you can see that becomes my new route. And it's still the same. It's still a scene route. It still has a transform, but now I don't have any kind of visualization that's blocking my view. No icons. So it makes it just a little bit easier to read this in my scene. I could also go through here and I could just change these to be, collision area and maybe a visual mesh, just so it's much easier to see these in every single child and to know what we're changing. But now we've got all these different types of pickups, each one with their different amount to add, but I can keep on walking over them. Yeah, I could take some damage and I could just keep on walking back and forth over a banana, eating the exact same banana over and over again. Well, that is why in the base pickup, I also added in this remove pickup effect. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do here a destroy actor. So just by default in the parent, I want to just say if I ever run pickup effect, it just destroys the actor. And if I define this once, I don't have to keep on defining it every single one. So let's actually go into each of my children now and think, do I need to do this? Well, in the base one, on the event pickup, what I can do is I could say, after I have picked it up, after I've done all this apply damage, let's just say remove pickup. And we have a call that goes to the remove pickup effect. I'm not actually going to go into here and override that because in this instance, I want it to do what the parent does. I want to call remove pickup. And when it looks at it, it goes, do I do anything to do with remove pickup? Well, no, I don't. But does my parent? Yes, they do. So I'll go and run the parent's functionality, which in this case destroys actor. Now, this is going to obviously give us problems because we can pick up something even if we're on full health and it removes it and it's gone. But we can look at that in future videos. We can look at how we can add some extra functionality into filter and check. And my personal way of doing that, rather than having to cast to our character and get their health, is to set up some interfaces that get the values and get the data to make a decision. But for now, when I go and override these, you'll know that base pickup won't destroy because we haven't told it to actually remove pickup effects. This health one over here will be removed and it will heal us for 1. Let's just do some damage just for 1 moment. So let's go down to 25 damage. There we go. If I go and hit this one, it will heal me for 10 and it removes. Heal me for 20 and it will remove, and this one should heal me for 50, but obviously it gets capped out, so it goes back to, and it has been removed. So now we've got our different pickups, and obviously you can put some animations, you can make them rotate, you can have some different effects on the materials to make it look really cool and to indicate to the player that it is a pickup. We can have UI elements if we need to interact with them to pick them up. And obviously we can make some cool sounds and other visual elements that just let the player know they have picked something up, like the UI might animate to show that. But for now, I've got simple health pickups. And obviously when I'm doing my level design now, all I need to do is just come over into here and I could be like, where do I need a health pickup? Do I need a small health pickup, a medium health pickup, a large health pickup? You know, I've obviously used apples, bananas, and a bunch of bananas here, but this could be anything. It could be different sizes of health packs. It could be anything that you have that thematically fits into your game. Okay, so now over here, just on this wall, what I've got is I've got a bunch of different other meshes. These meshes all exist in the prototype pack. And what we're going to look at in future videos now is how we can extend these pickups out. And they're going to be much shorter videos, but they're going to be looking at how we can make a variation of this. We're going to look at how we can make versions that do coins and currency. We're going to look at ones that maybe make us invulnerable so that we can't take any damage for a certain amount of time. And maybe setting up some weapons and ammo and things like that. What we'll find is lots of them work off of the exact same structure as what we've created here with the health pickup. But now, because we've got this inheritance structure set up, we can set up as many different variations and values as we want. Eventually, this might get a little bit unwieldy to have so many things all inheriting. And that's where maybe we might just have a base data asset that contains these values and these variables, and all of it just exists in one pickup actor. But just to get your head around how pickups and how inheritance could work, let's just work on it with these different variations for now, and let's get our head around the actual structure of, if I set something up in a parent, how does that pass through to all of the child blueprints that inherit from it? And if we can do that, we can make lots of different variations and values, and we'll also make some different values and variations that exist in our character as well. And we'll think about how we can make different versions of our character, so we can have a character that can run quicker or run slower and maybe jump higher. Different variations, but the same functional base that they all inherit from. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to access more of my Unreal Engine content.